Tonight, a 12-year-old girl is being called a hero after rushing into her family's burning Richmond Hill home to save her brothers and dog. Now, as the family works to rebuild, they're crediting her quick action with getting everyone out safely. WSAV's Isabella Baez spoke with her about the terrifying moments and the bravery that's inspiring her community.
Well, Ben, Macy Johnson says she was coming home from school when she saw her home covered in flames. And without second thought, she ran through the front door, knowing her two brothers and dog were still inside.
When I saw that my house was on fire, the entire side of it, I burst inside, went up the stairs, yelled for my brothers that the house was on fire.
On March 30th, 12-year-old Macy Johnson said she was having a normal day, excited to be home after a long day of school. But she says when she got off the bus, something was wrong.
When I got off the bus, I noticed there was a lot of smoke. So I immediately started running in panic.
The side of her family's home was covered in flames. Inside, her 26 and 14-year-old brothers and her beloved dog, all unaware of what was going on. Macy did something not many would do: run inside her burning home.
I was scared and in a panic, thinking, do they already know this is here? Like, are they outside yet? I wasn't exactly sure. That dog, we've had him for a long time. And if we lost him, I don't know what I could do without him.
With the help of Macy, everyone made it safely outside. They dialed 911 and waited for firefighters to arrive. The family says they lost personal belongings, mattresses, clothes, and everything in their garage to the fire. However, they say they are thankful for Macy's actions, saying she saved lives. And where do you feel like that bravery to do that kind of came from?
Love for my siblings and my house.
Macy and her family are now working to rebuild and trying to move on. Meanwhile, many in the community calling Macy a hero, something she says she doesn't identify with.
I wouldn't, because I feel like it's something we need to normalize. People should always have this bravery.
The family says the fire is still under investigation, but they're hoping to rebuild the home and move back in soon. As well, Baez, WSAV News 3 on your side.
Isabella, thank you. A GoFundMe created for the family of an Effingham County man killed in a head-on crash has now raised nearly $50,000. 47-year-old Michael Sharp died after a crash on Old Augusta Road South earlier this month. In an update, Jessica Woodward thanked everyone who donated, shared the page, and kept the family in their prayers. She said the support from friends, family, and strangers has brought comfort and hope to Sharp's wife, Crystal, and their two children as they continue to grieve the loss of their husband and father. The Effingham County Sheriff's Office says that Sharp was driving a Chevy Silverado when a Ford Escape crossed the center line and hit him head-on. Deputies say the driver of that car, 27-year-old Davy Jansasoy, was taken to the hospital after the crash, then tried to leave before being discharged. Investigators say he was wanted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement for deportation and was arrested due to what deputies called a flight risk. He now faces several charges, including first-degree vehicle homicide, DUI, and reckless driving. Charges have been dismissed against a Beaufort County magistrate judge in a case dating back to last fall. Judge Thomas Holloway was arrested and charged with driving under the influence at the end of last October. Now, WSAV has confirmed that the court has agreed to expunge the records at the end of April. Those charges now have officially been dropped. Continuing coverage now, South Carolina's Attorney General sitting down with News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh to talk about Alec Murdaugh's push for a retrial. It comes days after his convictions for the murder of his wife and son were thrown out over jury tampering concerns. Here is their exclusive conversation on what comes next.
Talk about the death penalty.
Yeah.
Dick Harpootlian said, ultimately, this is political for you. Would you like to respond to that?
So, Mr. Harpootlian has been a Democratic activist for the better part of 50 years in South Carolina. He was the former chairman of the state Democratic Party. He is a very hyper-partisan person in his personal life, and he has a vested interest in politics at the state level. He has a vested interest in the governor's race. He has a vested interest in the attorney general's race. He has a vested interest in all races. And so he's going to inject politics into this. The reality of the matter is that when the Supreme Court reversed this case, I went to members of my team and we said that we're going to have to evaluate this case as if it was never tried, and we have to consider and evaluate all aspects of this case, to include our legal strategy, to include the venue questions that are going to be coming up, to include capital punishment.
In addition to filing a lawsuit against the clerk of the court, Becky Hill, defense attorney Dick Harpootlian suggested the murder investigation was botched from the start. Yesterday, in a press conference, Dick Harpootlian basically said this was not only jury tampering, but this was a botched murder investigation. What's your response to that?
Well, first off, I vehemently disagree with his characterization that this is a botched murder investigation. I have always believed that the men and women of the state law enforcement division, as well as our federal and local partners who were involved in that original investigation, are very capable, competent people who did an exemplary job in that investigation. And again, you see this all the time in cases, especially high-profile cases, where there's always a desire to attack the people who, not just attack the investigation, but to attack the people who did the investigation. And so we stand by the men and women in law enforcement. I stand by the men and women in this office because they did an exemplary job in the original prosecution of this case, and they're going to do an exemplary job on the retrial.
And Attorney General Wilson says he wants to get this trial in motion before the end of the year, if possible. In fact, he won't be in office next year to try this case because he's running for governor. A Chinese national has been indicted in the United States and is now in custody in China in connection to a drug trafficking scheme tied to the port of Savannah. According to officials, they say 45-year-old David Gong used his Chinese chemical company to ship synthetic drugs into the Augusta and Savannah areas dating all the way back to 2020. Investigators say he sold drugs to an undercover DEA agent and to a Georgia man who later pleaded guilty in a separate drug case. Officials say Gong was arrested in China in February. He is now facing multiple federal charges in the U.S., including conspiracy to import and distribute controlled substances. A final vote on proposed changes to Chatham County's short-term vacation rental ordinance has been delayed after county leaders responded to public input. Chatham County Chairman Chester Ellis says that he will ask commissioners to table the second reading of the proposed ordinance, which was originally set for this Friday. The decision comes after 2 community meetings where residents shared concerns about the changes and their potential impact. County leaders say a workshop will now be held at a later date, giving commissioners time to further review the proposal and consider that additional input. Officials say the goal is to better understand the broader implications of the ordinance and potentially address all changes at once. Election day results continue to be certified across Georgia as several races are now settled for the November election and others move on to runoffs next month. In one local race, the District 165 seat in the Georgia House has been decided with an outright win. WSAV's Jillian Coles now with more on that race.
We need to make sure that the people who serve in our positions are a direct reflection of the people who live in our communities.
Mike Juan Green, now State House Representative-elect for District 165, characterizes his campaign as being the voice for all. He says his fight to start his career in entrepreneurship while living in subsidized housing in Savannah makes him passionate to support young dreamers with limited resources.
A small business is fun to have, but sometimes access to capital is something that can be extremely difficult.
The 25-year-old says that is one of the reasons he ran for office. He says he also wants to make healthcare and housing affordable, as well as prioritize funding for the local schools.
I stand behind everything that supports literacy right in our school district. Everything, because if a student can't read, a student is not going to be able to accomplish some of the basic fundamental things of life.
He will replace Representative Edna Jackson, the first black female mayor in the hostess city. In her retirement speech last January, she spoke about lessons learned while in office.
But what I have learned is that now we can come together and fight for those things that is going to make these United States of America the home of the brave.
Green says he plans to continue that legacy.
She made sure that, all of our people had representation. And that's one of the things that I believe that ultimately we have to continue by way of making sure that we allow young people, our local historically black college and university, that we provide them with the opportunity to serve as well.
And that was Jillian Coles reporting. Green says that he wants the people of District 165, which includes East Savannah and Thunderbolt, to know that opportunities to have their voices heard are coming soon. He says keep an eye out and come with not only problems, but ideas for solutions. Georgia's race for governor is now headed to a Republican runoff after no candidate cleared the 50% threshold. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and entrepreneur Rick Jackson will now face off on June 16th in the runoff to determine the nominee. On the Democratic side, former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms avoided a runoff and secured the party's nomination. Political analysts say the general election will likely test voter turnout and enthusiasm across the state, with Republicans still holding a slight edge in Georgia in terms of registered voters.
Governor's race, you have two kind of MAGA identified candidates who ended up making it into the runoff. And then in the Senate race, you get a MAGA wing representative and also somebody who represents the more traditional wing of the party. And so what that suggests is that, one, there's still a lot of heterogeneity within the Republican coalition in the state.
Bottoms is also making history as she could become the first African-American female governor elected in the United States if she wins in November. There are many more races, both local and at the state level, that you can find the results for. We have a running list at WSAV.com/electionHQ, and there you'll also find information about South Carolina's upcoming primary, June 9th.